Hello, and a very warm welcome to yet another episode of our lockdown tapes. This is episode number 5. I'm Dave Clark, joined by Matt Newman, as ever, and also joining us, I'm pleased to say, one of the bright young training talents in the UK in terms of greyhound racing, is, of course, Nathan Hunt. Nathan, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm not so bad. Just finished up, so looking forward to it.
Good stuff. Right, we're still in the same place, really. 23rd of March was the last time we saw racing in the UK. Provisional schedule released recently by ARC. Nothing as of yet from SIS. We remain hopeful of racing on the 1st of June. How has lockdown been for you then, Nathan? How's it affected you personally before we talk about training greyhounds?
It hasn't really affected me personally. In terms of spending time with the dogs, it's been enjoyable. We've been lucky we've had good weather, but obviously, we're getting a bit fed up now. We're ready to go back, and we're looking forward to getting back racing.
Okay, and what about at the kennel itself? You mentioned there that you've spent more time with the dogs. I know you as a kennel hand and a trainer, willing to travel. I've seen you up and down the country with the open racing. Have you enjoyed that? More time with the dogs at the kennel, be able to get more done?
It's been nice to have a break from driving. I can't say that's an enjoyable task, but yeah, it's been great to spend more time with the dogs. And we've been lucky, as I said, with the weather. I think if the weather was bad, it would have been pretty depressing without the racing, but the weather's been good, and the dogs have been enjoying their time with the sun on the back.
And what about the kennel as a business? Finances, I know, speaking to trainers, quite happy with the support they've had. DBGB, 50p a day for every dog in training, as well as support from the track. Did you get that support, and how did you find it? Was it accessible? Was it sufficient?
Yeah, so obviously once we knew we were going into lockdown, we decided to lower our kennel fees straight away. That was before we knew what support we'd be getting from Coral. But yeah, they've been very generous. Obviously, every dog's been given £1 a day, and obviously with the DBGB 50p a day, it's been a help. Yeah, and we're very grateful and lucky. Really, we've got a good group of owners who've supported us, and they've been paying us on time. We've had no problems really.
Good stuff. Good stuff. What about staffing, Nathan? How big is your team? Have you been able to operate as normal? Have you scaled back? How's that worked?
Well, we had one member of staff who was stuck in Madagascar, couldn't get back over. Another lady,
Madagascar.
Yeah, another lady who was part time. She wasn't very keen on coming in, so she stayed at home. She still hasn't come back. But between us, it's obviously without racing, it's a big difference. Obviously, we race, six days a week. We're at the track, so you've got someone who's at the track 6 days a week. So they've been here instead. Myself, Phil is obviously still helping out, and Phil's partner has been living with Phil during lockdown, so she's been helping out with the kennels as well. So there's been 3 full-time staff plus Phil and his partner as well. So between the 5 of us, it's been pretty good.
Okay, good stuff. Now, as I mentioned, 1st of June is when we're hoping to be back racing. We have started trialling though. I know you've been trialling at Romford this week. Monday all kicked off. Was you anxious about going, Nathan, to the track yourself?
No, I wouldn't say anxious. I know there's been a lot of work that's gone into it. It's been a well thought out process. Obviously, this week there was only just 2 trainers at the track at once, so distance wise there was no problems there. So it'd be a little bit more interesting obviously next week when we integrate a little bit more to get you used to it for racing. But yeah, I wouldn't say I was anxious because I know obviously the work that's gone on at the track, and obviously we've all had to be wearing PPE, so yeah, we're all safe.
Well, that was going to be my next question, is what procedures have been in place? The PPE, the social distancing, how have they enforced that and monitored it as the trial sessions have gone on?
Yeah, so obviously we've been wearing gloves and masks at the track. I can't say it's easy handling dogs with gloves on, because it's not. Obviously they tear very easy on the muzzles and the leads. But yeah, we've been wearing them. Obviously the track staff are wearing PPE as well. obviously we get the dog scanned outside by a member of the racing office, where normally it'd all be inside the kennel. So outside the paddock, they scan the dog, keeping distance. The vet checks them outside, and then you go in just to weigh in, where there's just be one member of the racing office there to weigh in, and then one paddock steward will open your kennel ready, step back, and then you load the dog into the kennel.
Okay, so all sounds quite straightforward, but I appreciate that everyone has to keep safe as well. We're a week away. We're sort of 1 week down, 1 week to go. All dogs needing to trial twice. Is it going to be any sort of difference? Are they going to step things up? You mentioned that it was only 2 trainers at the track. Are we going to see more integration? Because, you know, in sort of just over a week's time, we're going to be looking at 6 dogs racing around the track potentially.
Yeah, so this week, I know there'll be at least 3 trainers at the track at once, and the trials are going to be mixed. So you'll see some 3-dog trials. For example, on Tuesday, it'll be myself. I think we're with Yvonne Gaskin and maybe Paul Young. So Mark Arkle, the racing manager, has graded some of those trials. So we obviously mixed and just get into practice for what we'll have to do the following week.
Okay. And what have the conditions been like at the track? Obviously, I hadn't seen any trials or any racing for some time, some 9-10 weeks. How did you find the surface yourself when you got back there?
Yeah, obviously we were Tuesday, so we were the second day, and obviously they'd had 1 session already, but the track was in really good condition when we were there. Obviously we've had warm weather, but they kept the water on it. You can see they've obviously, I know the Coral and Ladbrokes tracks kept 2 members of staff on during lockdown as well, so the track has been maintained. That's good, and they spent time obviously putting a little bit of turf around the edges, where obviously over winter it's gone bald and on the outside of the track. So yeah, it looked immaculate there, really.
Okay, well, we are all chomping at the bit to get back racing, but obviously when it is safe to do so. Let's move on to you yourself, Nathan, because I'm sure, you know, myself and Matt and everyone watching wants to know everything there is to know about you, training greyhounds. But let's get your story first then, and I'll let Matt take over here, because not a family, Matt, that Nathan comes from that is particularly steeped in greyhound racing history, if at all.
No, and I think that's the interesting part about it. It was a love of racing that came from your neighbours, I believe, and they had a dog, Nathan.
Yeah, so when I was around 10, 11, I became friends with Robert Short, and his mother is the promoter at Swansea, the flapping track. So obviously we got friendly, and we started off. We just had a bitch between us, and then we got 2 bitches, and we were training them, and they raced at Swansea. It went from there really, and Swansea shut, I think, in 2007 or so. But obviously that's from Manach, which is called the Valleys. It's still there, so we were going there pretty much every Thursday and Saturday. And then when Swansea shut, Lynn decided to get a license, and that's when I became a kennel hand for her, and stemmed from there really.
So what was it about greyhounds as an animal that got you hooked?
To begin with, I just enjoyed spending time with the dogs, walking them every day, grooming, massaging them, just the general care of the dogs, before I'd really had any interest in the racing side. But then obviously when I first started watching the racing at Swansea, and then when one of the ones that we had won, you soon get the buzz, and the bug really got me then, and that's where it came from.
Now, one of our founding syndicate members, a guy called Mark Jones, is from South Wales, and I think flapping is very important in your part of the country, because your nearest proper track, I guess, would have been Swindon. So how difficult is it for the greyhound community in South Wales that they just don't have the tracks apart from the valleys now?
Yeah, it's difficult because obviously you need to drive at least like 2 hours before you get anywhere. So it's difficult. It's difficult for like a larger kennel to set up really, because you're going to have to travel a distance before you get anywhere. But it's a great place to start on the flaps really, for grassroots. I think you learn so much. There's a lot of people, a lot of characters there. a lot of knowledge as well, and it's surprising how many decent dogs go through the flaps as well. You know, during my time, I've seen some fairly good dogs go through.
So how did you go from the flaps to South Wales to joining Phil Simmons in Cambridge?
Well, Lynn obviously bred a litter from Tyra Alice. It was her second litter. The first litter were reared in Fishguard, and then they were fairly good. A few of them made top grade. But then the second litter were by Kennel, and I was always a big fan of him, so I wanted to purchase one. So we bought Castle Henry as a pup, and I was looking for someone to rear him. And I spoke to Patrick Janssens, and he always recommended Phil, so I got in contact with Phil. And at the time, he just bred a litter by Ambience and Coolavani Bird, but he'd only had 2 in the litter, and it turned out they were just 2 weeks apart from Henry's litter. So he decided, he said yes to taking Henry, and he ended up buying 3 that were left in the litter, which was Bang on Giles, Bang on Ella, and Bang on Pippa. So the 4 of those went with the 2 that he bred. So probably if his bitch had a big litter, probably wouldn't be here right now.
We'll come back to a couple of those that you've mentioned later on. They play a huge part in your growing into the game. How was it settling in away from home at such a young age? Were you homesick, or was it fairly easy to adjust?
Yeah, so I was 21 when I first moved here. I'd had a full-time job for 5 years, making switchgear, but I never really enjoyed it. I mean, my heart was always into the dogs, so I always wanted to do it full-time. And then Phil just mentioned it to me when he was on the phone to me, when I was just asking about the pups. And yeah, I had to think about it. I decided to make the decision. I think it made it easier because I moved to Cambridge, and it's a nice part of the country. And obviously being at Romford's a great track to be at. So it did make it a lot easier. Probably would have been different maybe if I'd moved to somewhere else in the country, but we're lucky that it's a nice part of the world, and we enjoyed it as soon as I came here, really.
Success very quickly followed, and in 2018 you were Kennel Hand of the Year. What did that mean to you at the DBGB Awards to go and pick up a prize like that?
Yeah, it was pretty overwhelming. Something I never expected to win, and obviously I hadn't really been in the sport that long. But yeah, it was really satisfying just to get recognition from not just people within the sport, but our owners as well. Obviously, it was nice to be recognised by them, and enough for them to nominate me.
Now, speaking of the DBGB, you were part of their first class of their apprenticeship scheme. They spent time at their offices at the Romford Racing Office. Tell us a little bit about that, what you learned and how that's helped you grow.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. We've been on some really good visits. Spent time at Greyhound watching the track preparation there, which is always interesting because it's something you don't see when we turn up the track. You know, the work on the track's been pretty much done. So to see them, obviously, how they rotivate it, what the process it goes through, that was very interesting. We went to the Dogs Trust in Loughborough, where they spoke about, how enrichment and the different ideas they had, because obviously they've got dogs in the kennel a long time. They might get bored, so the different ideas on how to keep them entertained, which ideas that I've taken on board as well. We also went to the lab in Newmarket, where all the samples go from any dog tested at DBGB track. They get sent to the lab in Newmarket. It's the same place that the BHA samples go. So to go into the lab and see the process of the samples, how they're taken through, it was pretty impressive, really, and it's state-of-the-art stuff.
It's a great all-encompassing scheme, and let's hope it's a continued success with more classes. It's not always the easiest industry, is it, Dave?
No, I mean, greyhound racing is a sport in recent years that has really struggled with retaining young people. A lot of them turn out to be decent kennel hands, but it's a very, very difficult industry and sport to carve out a career in, isn't it, Nathan?
It is. I said I'm not foolish enough to say that I'd be able to do it on my own. I've had a great support from Phil, obviously. I've taken over from him, and obviously the kennels are ready made. But to start off from scratch is near on impossible. To get the land, the cost behind it is massive, which is difficult for anyone young starting off. You probably need financial support behind you if you were just building off from scratch.
Rather than relying on a handout from somewhere and being very fortunate for someone to be given an opportunity, what could we do as a sporting industry to hold on to young people and to give them an opportunity to step up through kennel hand, assistant trainer, and then become a successful professional trainer, and longevity in the game as well?
I think I quite like the idea of the Central Park ad where Luke Morrison, who was working for Kevinton, he obviously, I think he rents a part of a kennel there, and they've set him up there. And obviously he's got a contract at Central Park now, and he can build himself up. I think that's a good idea. Obviously, maybe not tracks like Romford would do, but maybe some of the smaller tracks just as a feeder and a way into the sport for young people who want to go on their own. I think that's a really good idea. But of course, you need people willing to let out their kennels as well. Obviously, we heard about Peterborough shutting this week, and David Prues isn't keen on it, letting his kennels out, which it's a shame. But you'd think maybe one of the tracks could get in contact with these people who are maybe retiring with kennels to try and get in there, just even buy the kennels or rent them out for someone young.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not too familiar with what Dave's circumstances are, but he won't be alone, I'm sure, in being trainers that see their track close and just think, I'll sell it to a developer, when really we need to be retaining premises in which dogs can be trained on, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously the kennels will be ready there, ready made there, and people can just start off straight away and get straight into it.
Now, what would you give to any youngsters out there, Nathan? You're a very young trainer. Do you feel like a young trainer? When you line up, you look around and see, do you think I am very young compared to some of these?
I didn't feel very young this week when someone called me and wanted to put a dog here, and they were younger than me. So they were younger than me. So, but yeah, I think anyone young, I think what I would say is don't get caught up, because there's a lot of negative things going around, especially now. And I just don't let that get caught up with you. Try and keep positive. I think a lot of people, even when I first moved, were saying, there's no future in the sport. But, in the short time that I've been here, 5 years, I've certainly enjoyed it. And I'm definitely no regrets of what I've done anyway. And
it's not just a career, is it? It's a lifestyle, isn't it? Because the sport, the care of the greyhounds is 24/7, 365 days a year.
Yeah, it's non-stop. There's always something going on. I think that's a lot of trainers during lockdown probably can't believe, what they can do on their free nights, because most of the nights, you're out late and then up early in the morning. But it is a way of life, and you either love it or you hate it.
Let's talk about that conversation then, that process of you going from being assistant trainer to Phil to becoming trainer. How did that come about?
I think we'd spoke about it for a while. I think Phil had been in the sport a long time, and you have a lot of bad nights, and I think you slowly get fed up of it maybe, and he wanted to still stay in the sport, but maybe just take a step back. And obviously he asked me if I was interested, and he went from there really. But it was it didn't just happen. It was we'd been talking about it for a while really. I think we were hoping for it to be done by January, but then there's a couple of things things that needed to get done, and then eventually beginning of February I had my first runners.
It's quite a step for him to take. He must think quite highly of you to do that, to almost switch roles, because he is now sort of the assistant trainer, isn't he?
Yeah, he's my assistant trainer, but obviously, the business is still his. But obviously, there's a lot of pressure really because he's handing it over to me. I could make a cock up of it, and his business is down the pan. So yeah, obviously, there's a lot. We've got to have a lot of trust between us, and I'm prepared to work hard to keep it going anyway.
I'm sure you are, having seen you, as I say, clocking up the miles up and down the country. What about the dynamics at the kennel? Have you tried out any sort of different methods, or have you sort of stuck with what's clearly worked already at Phil's?
Yeah, the general routine's pretty much the same. Obviously, the staff are used to it as well. Maybe a couple of little things, maybe my own ideas, but only ideas I think will benefit the dogs. There's always something new and you're always learning. So, we'd always maybe try different things. It might not always work, but we'll try. But yeah, the general routine's pretty much the same. As I say, we've had pretty good success. Phil, the last 5 years I've been here, we've had a lot of success, and obviously something was working then, so why try and change it?
What is the Nathan Hunt ideology then, and methods? What do you believe in as a trainer when you're looking after and training these athletes?
Obviously, it's pretty cliche, but everyone's it's a happy dog is always a winning dog. But I think that's pretty basic. You should always have happy dogs. Get them fit, but then I think you need to know when you've done enough, and then not to do too much. But I think as long as the dog's healthy, it's happy, it's well looked after, I think they'll run the best for you anyway. I think it's important to get them checked out as regularly as you can. Make sure all them little niggers are ironed out before they, get into bigger problems. So we're lucky that we've got Ron Mills on site who comes and treats our dogs. So, if I watch a race, if I think something's not quite right, then I'll make sure they're checked out before they race again.
Tell us about Ron Mills. Then we spoke with the champion trainer, 11 times champion trainer, Mark Wallace, a few weeks back, and he could not have been more complimentary about Ron Mills and the work he does with these dogs. Given that you use him so regular, I'm assuming that you feel exactly the same way, Nathan.
Yeah, absolutely. I always remember the first time I come to the kennels just to visit the pups, and I watched Ron work, and you could see, how important it was. It was a big shock to me, really, because I'd never seen anything like it. But you can see, and there's no fluke really when you see the success of some of the trainers, and most of them, Ron's had his hands on the dogs. Obviously Mark Wallace and obviously Patrick, now they're having great success, and Ron is working with them weekly.
We can see in the background there, Nathan, nice and green where you are. Tell us about the facilities there. What have we got? How many dogs have we got in? Have you got a gallop, for instance? And maybe, try not to break anything, but maybe, I know you're on a laptop with us, just give us a little pan, as it were, around from where you're sitting.
So to my right hand side over there, we've got 1 litter of pups in there, which are the Castle Henry and Forest Apple pups. So they're only just gone out there. And then over in this paddock here, we've got the Lug-Hill Blake and the Wahida pups. Then we've got 2 large grass paddocks up behind the kennel there, 2 smaller grass paddocks on the left. We've got a sand paddock. We've got this large lawn area, and yeah, we've got a 300-yard gallop, which is a mix of shavings and sawdust, which has been a godsend really during lockdown, because we've been able to keep the dogs ticking over. And this week, pretty much nearly every dog has come back to whereabouts they were before the lockdown. So we've managed to keep most of them in good condition and fitness wise. We've got a lot of walking machines as well, which gives them a bit of variety. And we're very lucky. We've got the rifle range next door, which is around 1,000 yards, just flat grass really. And we're allowed access there in the evenings, which we take the pups out. And then normally the owners come up on a Sunday, which obviously they haven't been able to for a while, but they can walk their dogs out on there, which is a great facility to have.
There's something just dropped in. Luckily, we've got the rifle range next door. Tell us about that land there, because I mean I've been there and seen it. A great place to walk the dogs.
Yes, obviously it's the army rifle range, so during the week they'll be there, but even in the evenings it's shut off, so it's an enclosed area. It's well looked after as well, so it's 1,000 yards pretty much. It almost looks like a golf course fairway up there with trees either side. Plenty of forestry, so the pups love running around there loose, and plenty of freedom for them. A lot of people might have seen the videos of the pups I've put on social media, and you can really see that I think pups need a lot of freedom, and they certainly get plenty of that out there.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about social media later on. In terms of at the kennel, how many have you got in, Nathan? Have you got room for anyone watching this thinking, I'd like to support a young trainer? And then I want to talk a little bit about your graded contract at Romford. But first, how many have you got in?
So we've got a capacity of 70, and we're full at the moment, but got more coming in this week, but some going for rehoming as well. I'll always have room for a good dog, obviously, but you like to. It's a fine line, I suppose, between having too many and not enough. So yeah, I've been pretty lucky, and it's quite amazing, really. We've had quite a lot of new dogs that come in, and it's pretty surreal when someone rings you up and saying they want to put a dog here. So yeah, I've been really grateful for everyone's support. I think we've got about probably over 10 dogs now, new dogs that haven't raced for us yet. So we're really looking forward to seeing some of those.
Oh, good times. Well, maybe one or two to follow a little bit later on. Now, taking over from Phil, you've in course inherited that contract at Romford. What is that relationship like? Because I know that as a track, they were very supportive of you taking over. Is it demanding? Do you feel pressure supplying dogs to one of the busiest and biggest tracks in the country?
I wouldn't say it's pressure. I think it's good in a way. I think I like to be, you push to the max, really. It keeps you on your toes. Your standards are always got to be high. Relationship with Mark's really good. Obviously, he's relatively new to his role as well, so we're both taking on pretty new roles, but yeah, we get on pretty well. It's really professional at Romford, but if I've got a lame dog, I need to tell them straight away, so I either phone them up or send an email if I think a dog needs to come off, if a dog needs to go on. Yeah, the communication's got to be really good there, and I think we've got that. Obviously, they ring me every morning, apart from Sundays, make sure the dogs are okay for the following day's card. So you've got to be on the end of the phone if they're ringing you.
Yeah, and Matt, Romford, the place to race, the place to be right now, because last year, huge redevelopment there.
Yeah, it felt like a bit of a shot in the arm. We were there for the Romford Public Cup in September. Has the feel of the track changed at all, Nathan? Has it energised the track?
Yeah, it was. To be honest, when the track originally shut because of the asbestos, it was really doom and gloom. I think there was a lot of people who were worried the track may shut, but obviously it was a massive investment from Coral, and it was a real big boost for everyone. And I think they've done a really good job of the redevelopment. I think it's a real smart stand now. The restaurant's a really nice area. I think it's a place you can be proud to take owners, and I think I think a lot of owners really want dogs at Romford now because it's a real nice facility.
And that's hugely important, trying to bring owners into the game. There's been a lot of talk about owners and open racing recently, trying to bring new people into the sport, and having those facilities obviously for us is great. Now, the Phil Simmons Kennel have had some big nights at Romford over the years, plenty of category 2 and 3 winners, but also let's talk about Gray's Cup winner winning the Romford Puppy Cup in 2018, a big category 1 triumph for you guys.
Yeah, we'd always had good dogs in the Puppy Cup. I think we'd had finalists in the previous 4 years, so we were knocking on the door really, but never quite had one probably good enough to win it. But I think going into that competition, we knew we had a dog that was well capable of winning it. Obviously, he went through the competition unbeaten. he was pretty foot perfect in the semi-final, but still, I think a lot of people favoured Ted Soppit's dog, Kawasaki Flash. Obviously, we were drawn inside him that night, which was key. I think they probably out-trapped us, but his pace to the bend once he got going was pretty phenomenal. And he pushed his way inside him of the first bend, and he was gone really. And since then, he's had quite a few niggles and he's had a few problems, but hopefully he'll be trialing next week anyway. So hopefully he can come back just to hopefully we can get a good end of his career anyway.
It would certainly be lovely to see him back on track. And is that something that you would like to continue, saying they had finalists however many years in a row? Is that a subtle hint that if we do get a Romford Puppy Cup this year, we should be looking for a Nathan Hunt dog each way in the betting, going to make the final?
I hope we get the Romford Puppy Cup. I hope it's the same time as normal, because otherwise I'll have pups we won't be eligible for it. I got a couple who I think they're the right age. They've got the right pedigree for it anyway, whether they're good enough. But I hope it goes ahead. I think it's important. We try and stack in a few category ones before the end of the year if we can, and especially the puppy competitions anyway. And the Puppy Cup is a competition that's close to my heart anyway.
Now, of course, in 2018, the Kennel also had the Essex Vars winner, Breaktime. Apparently, there's a good story behind it you can tell us.
Yeah, Breaktime was obviously, I think Phil had waited a long time to win a category one at Romford, his home track. And then just 2 weeks later, Breaktime won the Essex Vars. I think Brian Turner phoned up Phil to put her with us because obviously he was at an age he didn't really want to go travelling, and he thought she'd make a nice step up to 575. And he actually wanted to just to go in a maiden, and we trialled her anyway. She looked fairly decent, so we just thought, we've got nothing to lose. She may as well go in the Essex Vars. And she was pretty brilliant. I think she won the first round. She was second in the semi-final, and in the final, she cracked out. She was a real jealous type. When she got on the skin, she was a real hard type to pass. And it was really, the 2 weeks were pretty brilliant for the kennel.
Now, there were big nights away from Romford as well. We've already spoken a little bit about Castle Henry and Lynn Short breeding him out of her bitch Tyra Alice, who I believe was the track record holder at Swansea.
Yeah, she was. She broke the third track record in one of the rounds of the Welsh Derby, and she was pretty unknown really on licensed tracks, DBGB tracks. She'd only had a couple of trials really, maybe 1 or 2 races towards the end of her career. But she'd had quite a few nice runs at Galway, I think. And but Lynn had always bought her with breeding in mind. She had a great pedigree. I think her brothers were Irish Derby runners. So the breeding was always there. And it went from there really.
And it must have been a huge night for you as the owner. Monmore Puppy Derby winner. I mean, that must have been really special for you.
Yeah, it was. I think everyone could see the emotion I showed on the night, but it was a real buzz. I mean, it's pretty much a dream when you get a pup at that age. Even just to win an Open, but to achieve what he did, and then win a category one, and it's a real prestigious puppy competition like the Monmore Puppy Derby. The field in the final was high class. I think he was about 14-1 in the final, but he was the oldest dog and he was the most experienced dog in the final. I think that was a massive help for him in the final, and he just peaked at the right time.
You said earlier that you have a litter there out of Forest Apple, just off to your right there. And is he a dog you're looking to use as a sire, or is that just going to be a one-off, just to have a little bit of his blood running through?
Yeah, we were always keen to have a litter out of him just for what he achieved for us. He's a great stamp of a dog. He had all the attributes. Obviously, he won the British bred sprinter Kennel over 2 bends. He won the Puppy Derby over 4 bends, as well as getting to other Category 1 finals. And then he got the Champion Stakes final a fight over 6 bends at Romford. So he's a very versatile dog. So we always were keen to use him. Just the right bitch never came around. So when one of our owners, Richard, mentioned to me about Forest Apple, I had a look at her and I was really keen to use her. so we done a deal, and the litter are just up there now, and they're about 8 weeks old now, and we're delighted with them anyway. There's 5 bitches and 4 dogs. A couple of big black dogs who look like their dad, as well as a few good-looking bitches who look like their mother as well. So she's really well-bred Forest Apple. She's she's a full sister to Forest Chunk, who won the Golden Sprint at Romford. And then her half sister was Forest Twilight, who was a great bitch. And one of her other half sisters through Ravenswood Flow, who won the Oaks, obviously, for Kevin Hutton. So the dam line is there. It's really good pedigree. So hopefully, we're fortunate enough she might throw one just as good as them.
I'm sure there'll be a lot of people out there putting a little ring in their calendar for when they're 16, 17 months, so we can start to see them hit the track. Now, another from that same litter was On Pippa. You mentioned her a little earlier on. She's had litters herself, and she's thrown the smart Binksy Bruce, who did a 23.71 at Romford last year. It's the 5th quickest time of 2019. I mean, that takes some doing at a track that has as much open race as Romford does.
Yeah, it was a great litter by Lemonade Turbo. Myself and Luke Staunton bred the litter. And I wouldn't say there was real stars in the litter, but overall, I think there was a lot of quality. The 3 dogs, especially, were they won plenty of races for us. Obviously, Binksy Bruce, who was called Racket Up Bruce. We sold him to Paul Binks, who was the RGOA chairman. He was looking for a decent Friday night dog, and I mentioned Bruce. That was before the 2370. He'd done a couple of nice runs, but nothing that sort of fast. So you probably bought him a bit cheap, really, for what you should have paid for him. But I was happy for Paul, and it was just when the track had switched. So it was a real buzz about the place at the time. So when he was going around there doing those sort of times, it was great. And then we had Racket Up Charlie at the same time, who's won. He's won a British bred race of Sheffield. He's won Opens at Nottingham. I think he's done 23.80 something at Romford. And then he's called Aero Racket Up now, so hopefully we'll get a good year out of him. And then we had Racket Up Turbo, who won first round of the Puppy Classic at Nottingham. And then he's won the 575 competition, which was run during the opening night at Romford. So to get a winner on opening night, and it was good prize money, that was fantastic for us. And then obviously, of course, Go Pat Go won just before the lockdown, a couple of weeks before the lockdown. She won the British Bred Maiden competition, which was my first competition win. So I think it was quite fitting, really, that my first competition win was one of the pups that we bred.
Yeah, that must have been a really special night to have that as your first winner.
Yeah, I think it was always going to be special to win your first competition. Probably didn't expect to win one so soon. She always showed she had a bit of class about her, but she damaged her wrist at Swindon in the produce stick, so she was off a long time. And then we brought her back slowly, and she just happened to peak at the right time, really. She won the first round in the quickest time. Didn't really get much of a mention for the final, but she was drawn in trap 1 where she wanted to be, and she showed her local knowledge and her experience. She railed ever so well the first 2 bends. She tracked the leader, and she showed great determination just to push it out the way off the last bend. And she's probably one of her best races. She saved for the final.
No, there's a great program now for British bred dogs, and I mean, how important is it to you for the longevity of British breeding to have these kind of races?
Yeah, I think these £4,000 category 2s have been fantastic. The prize money, not just for the winning money, but the run money and the money for the breeders. I think it's been a great idea, and it's been. I think a lot of people in the sport, especially British breeders, are really keen, and I think it's got a few more people interested. I think obviously look at Kevin Hutton now, he's breeding from some top class bitches. I think he's keen to get stuck in. Obviously we need to start getting into it and give Rab something to run against.
I mean, and that's great as well that people are really taking the mantle. Rab and the KSS guys have led the way, but As you say, guys like Kevin Hutton, you've got some nice leaders there. It's important, I think, that you're able to try and compete on a level playing field and convince people to buy British as well. It's not all about the Irish pups all the time.
It is difficult. I remember when we had Racket Up Turbo, he done, I think it was the second quickest time in the Puppy Classic, and we put him up for sale, and we had zero interest for him, which is it's frustrating because if you put that run in Ireland, people be queuing up to buy him, but for probably more than we had advertising for as well. So it's frustrating. For some reason, people would rather buy from the Irish, but you know this dog was already proven in this country. But we would I think we sold him at the time. We kept hold of him anyway, and then we sold him a little bit later on. But you know, people say you need a lot of luck with pups, but I think equally you need a lot of luck if you're buying a race dog from Ireland. You know, there's no guarantee to say it's going to turn out what you think it should do. I think there's more excitement in buying pups anyway. Certainly, my preference would be to buy a pup from a young age and just watch it grow and develop. It's obviously a lottery, but you know, it's more. There's no pressure on it. You're not expecting anything. And you know, just to watch them first win and then the first open, it's a great buzz.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's fascinating watching them grow. Now, speaking of breeding, your kennels, there was a Derby winner bred there. In fact, one that was named after me, a certain that Salad Dodger. You've got a little plaque on the wall there. I mean, what kind of vision does that give you? Drive does that give you to have another Derby winner?
Yeah, obviously it came a little bit before I started. Phil obviously bred the litter. He started off at Romford. I think he might have been Phil's first ever graded runner at Romford. And obviously they could see that he wasn't suited to the 400 meters. He needed a gallop. And obviously with Ron being here, he spoke to Ron. I think Ron treated him one day and he liked his shape and he liked the way he looked. So he obviously got Bruno involved and they bought in between them. And I think he started off at Coventry when Bruno was there and he won an open there and it went from there. I remember a bet Droopy's Road anti-post 150 to 1 before I knew Phil. So I was at Wimbledon that night. I was cheering on Droopy's Road. I was absolutely gutted with Salad Dodger won, but obviously delighted for them to breed the winner.
Now, talking of classic winners, that brings us on to another huge night for the kennel, Dave.
Yeah, we go back to 2017, Nathan, which in a strange way feels an age away now, but only sort of 2 and a bit years ago. A certain Wahida for the kennel. I know you was involved then, winning the Oaks for Phil. If you've got a good bitch, you want to win the Oaks, and you did exactly that. So must have been a huge moment, the biggest moment for you in the sport.
Yeah, it's probably the biggest achievement to win a classic. It was a real hard competition. Some proper bitches in the competition. It was the last ever Sky meeting, and she went through the stake unbeaten, and she was still a puppy. So yeah, she was a class act. I think when we first had her, we knew straight away she was going to be special. I think she won her first race at Romford. She broke 24 seconds, and I think she got locked up after that. But then, yeah, she went from strength to strength. She got to the semi-final of the Puppy Cup when Romford wasn't really her track, you know. But she showed great track craft. She had a great will to win. And then she went to Toaster for the Puppy Derby, where she was knocked out, which in a way was a blessing in disguise, because then the stage she got knocked out, it led her to have that trial at Bellevue, and you know, I think the luck round was beneficial for her. And then obviously she went through the competition unbeaten, beating some proper bitches.
Now I know, you know, she was obviously very special on the track, and you'll be hoping that she's special in the breeding paddocks as well, because as you mentioned, you've got a litter of hers on the ground at the kennel.
Yeah, it was always the plan to breed from her. Probably came a little bit later than we thought, but she eventually had a litter by Lugiel Blake. They were born early February, and she's really gone from a racer to a mother, and she's taken that role on amazingly. Really, she's a fantastic mother to them. she loves being out with them. She loves going on a walk with them, and she's a real character, and you can see that in the pups. But I like the look of them. They look really nice, long pups, nice action when they're out on the range, and they're no nastiness about them. They're all very happy pups, and she's done a great job with them. And hopefully, if they've got any ability from their father or their mother's side, then hopefully one of them can turn out as good.
Well, I've certainly been enjoying the videos of them on social media. Another big race one I wanted to mention, which I'm sure must have provided you guys with much satisfaction, was Droopy's Dresden, who of course won the gold collar. I think it was back in 2018. Now, he was a dog that as a pup showed enormous promise for Dave Mullins. I think he got to the final of the Puppy Derby at Wimbledon. And he clearly had issues, and he moved around a little bit kennel to kennel. He ended up with you guys, and you managed to land that big competition with him. So, a bit of a journey. I know John Proctor and Darryl Bear, the owners, have been supporters of the kennel since then. But again, that must have provided much satisfaction.
Yeah, it was to win it when I think he'd had a lot of problems before he'd come to us. He'd had a lot of trainers as well. So when he came to us, he was an old dog. He'd had a lot of injuries. But then when you talk about Ron Mills, he really was key to that dog. I think he needed treating regularly. He'd come out of his races. He had a lot of niggles, but you had to keep on top of them. And I think that dog benefited greatly from that. He had a great run in the Toaster Derby. I think he got to the quarterfinal stage. I think he was second in an invitation race on the final night. But the gold collar was obviously the icing on the cake for us. He won it well. It was a pretty good final as well, and we were delighted to win a Category 1 for John and Darryl, who great supporters of the game, not just the kennel but of the game as well. They put a lot into it, so to win a Category 1 for them was great. And he's actually living at home with Phil's partner Sarah now, living out his life. He's a great pet as well.
Okay, and we perhaps not as touched as it as much as we should do, but the welfare side of it after racing, tell us about the process with your dogs when they finish up racing. I'm sure, like all trainers we speak to, that's as important, if not more important, than while they're racing.
Yeah, it's important we get it right. I think the welfare standards need to be across the board. They need to be as high as they can be. When they finish racing, we're lucky we've got Romford, rehoming centre there, which we send a lot of dogs to. They do a very good job there. And then, as I spoke about, Phil's partner Sarah, she takes the odd dog in for us as well, and she's got a lot of connections, and she's rehomed a lot of dogs herself. Actually, one of the On Pippa pups, Bracket Up Turbo, was called Aero Turbo. Then he's recently gone to her house, so she gets him used to the house environment. So he's been there for a week or so, just getting used to the house, and then she'll find a nice home for him, hopefully. It's vastly important. We make sure these dogs get the right home as well, not just any home, but I also I've sent a few dogs to John Mullins. Does a fantastic job of rehoming. We sent one dog, I think he was in his kennel 45 minutes, and someone had taken him. But recently we'd had a dog he was a little bit funny, a bit of an odd dog. So I thought John would have had a bit of a challenge rehoming him, but within 3 weeks he'd got a home. So what they do there is fantastic, and I just hope these places get the support they deserve.
Absolutely, amen to that. Right, couple more questions for you, Nathan. It's brilliant to see a trainer such as yourself really embracing social media. I mentioned the video of the pups, dogs up the gallop. It's fantastic. Do you think that your age gives you a little bit of an edge there, in that you are, you've almost grown up with this technology now, and it is a way of life?
Yeah, I'm fortunate. Obviously, I'm in an age where I've grown up during school. Technology has evolved, so I've obviously picked everything up on the way. Obviously, when you're younger, you're more of a sponge. You absorb that information easily, and I think social media is it's at the end of the day, it's free, and it's a great tool just to get what we do here out to the wider audience, not just people around the country in the sport who wouldn't normally see it, but the outside of the sport, people who may, have a different perception of the sport. and they might have heard things or seen things, and they might not approve of greyhound racing, but then when they see what's going on at kennels around the country and the work that gets put in, hopefully the love and the care shines through in those videos and the pictures, and they can really see, actually, hang on a minute, a lot of love and care is going into these dogs, and they enjoy what they do.
Absolutely. I do think we should shine that light on, the care that goes on a little bit more than what we do. Right, a few more questions for you, Nathan, before we take up all your afternoon. Right, let's talk dogs to follow then. You've got a few youngsters coming through. Give us one that we've perhaps not seen or heard of, and then maybe give us one that we may have seen race, that you think will worth be following.
I'm very fortunate at the moment. I've got Barry Hislop in Scotland, who rears a lot of puppies, and he sent me quite a few at the moment. There's a few of them. There's a nice fawn bitch called Peaceful. She's out of Tyra Big Mike and Firehide Dora, I think, and she's a full sister to Man 21. She's an August pup, a nice looking bitch, strong looking. So we're hopeful she'll have a nice career. I've got a nice black bitch off Barry as well. She's Lugger Blake and Gorgeous Gal. Well, she's in October 18, so she'd be the right age for the Puppy Cup. She's a repeat mate that produced JT Jordan, who won the Irish Oaks and showed fantastic early pace. So hopefully she's blessed with that same sort of pace. A nice brindle dog then, who's a November 18 unraced, called Our Boy Seamus. He's out of Droopy's Jet. He looks a real powerful looking dog. And a dog who's already raced for us, still a puppy. He's in August 18 as well. Would be T-Boy Russet. He's made a good start to his career at Romford. Nice bit of early pace to the bend. The way he runs the first and second bend is really impressive. A real good bend runner, which I think you need at Romford. But during lockdown, I think he's muscled up an awful lot. He looks a lot stronger dog. This week, actually, in his trial, he didn't trap like he can. He was pretty slow away, but he certainly finished the trial a lot stronger than I'd seen before. So I think he will get stronger. Hopefully, we'll have a nice run at Romford with him anyway.
Okay. Any others? Any sort of brindle bitches from Liam Dowling that you think can make into champions?
Nothing springs to mind, but we've got a nice bitch, Ballymac Alba. She's got a lot of early pace. She's probably done one of our quicker sections this week anyway. She's
some questionable owners though.
No, good group of lads who own her. Very supportive of the kennel. Great to have them on board. Hopefully we can have a few more good nights with her.
Let's hope so anyway. Let's hope so. Right then, everyone wants to win the Derby, Nathan. Of course they do. What do you want to achieve in the sport, though, yourself, outside of that? Everyone wants to win the big competitions. What do you want to get out of greyhound racing?
Obviously, it'd be great to win as many competitions as you can, but, you need the ammo to do it. So, it's not something that I'm going to be, I'm not going to kill myself if we don't, win competitions. But if we've got the right dogs, then we'll try our best. And, of course, we'll travel with the right dogs. But, I think we just want to win as many races as we can, make sure the dogs are well looked after and just enjoy it, really. It'd be great to break into the top 6. Obviously, I'm not saying in the near future, but in the long-term future, it'd be great to break into the top 6. Obviously, there's some fantastic trainers out there trying to do the same as well. So you just need that bit of luck on your side. You need the dogs to fall in place at the right time, and hopefully we can do it.
Seamless link into my next question then, regarding other trainers. Who do you fear as the opposition? You get to a big final, maybe loading the dogs in the boxes, and you look down the line and you see a Mark Wallace putting his dog in. Are these the trainers that you respect and fear when you're taking on in big finals?
Yeah, you've got to respect them. I think everything they've achieved, they've proven. In the big final, their dogs are going to, probably run, as best as they will. So yeah, they're obviously got to be respected. I wouldn't say I fear them. We're just trying to win a dog race at the end of the day. We're not, trying to cure anything or, take on the world. So yeah, I wouldn't say I fear them, but I think I do enjoy running at the top level and taking on these trainers. Obviously in the British bred final, Rab had a runner, Mark had a runner, so to win that final was really satisfying.
Good stuff. And away from trainers, dogs currently in training. Who do we like the look of? I mean, the obvious one is the Derby favourite, Ice on Fire. But anything else catch your eye, Nathan, at the moment?
Yeah, obviously Ice on Fire is a dog of a lifetime, really. I really hope we get a Derby this year. You know, for them especially, it'd be pretty gutting to get a dog like that. We've probably yet to reach his peak and miss out on a campaign of the Derby. So I hope that goes ahead for them especially. I quite like a dog, Chris Akers, that he took in for the Derby. I think his name is Elusive Champ or something like that. Quite a young dog. He hasn't raced in this country yet, but I quite liked his runs in Ireland, so I think he'd be a dog to follow.
Okay, brilliant. Well, the proof will be in the pudding. With your eyeing up a dog there, we'll see how that one gets on. I do thank you, Nathan, because I know you're very, very busy, even on a Sunday without the owners coming down and pestering you. I'm sure you're very, very busy. So I thank you for your time, of course. And Matt as well, of course, yourself, another lockdown tape that we've done, and we think we're only going to be doing one more, but a big one next week.
Yeah, it is going to be a big one next week. Exciting one with Mark Bird. So looking forward to that. There's certainly going to be some interesting questions for that, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nathan, for your time. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you very much.
Excellent stuff. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I hope everyone keeps well, stays safe, and perhaps see you next week.